All right, first thing we're going to do is start out washing the car. I've got my bucket here. I've got my big red sponge, and a real important part of it is the grit guard sitting in the bottom of the bucket. That's going to keep all that grit and stuff that we pull off of the paint of the car from washing back up into my big red sponge there and getting back onto the paint. I've got 4 gallons of water in a 5-gallon bucket, and for that we need to dilute this. We'll only take 2 ounces of this in it. One of the tricks that I do, I kind of wish Optimum would do this for you. In the 8-ounce bottle, I kind of eyeball my midway, which would be 4 ounces, and then another midway, which would be 2 ounces. I just mark that on there with a Sharpie so I know right where to pour it in. So that way I can just pour straight into the bucket. I don't really have to measure. Okay? So now I'm going to put in my 2 ounces into the bucket. And this stuff is really ideal. I mean, if you're talking about it being cold outside, or if you don't have access to a garden hose outside, or you're in a dorm or an apartment building or something of that nature, you still want to keep the car clean, this is absolutely the way to do it. So I'm just going to stir this up just a little bit just to get the Optimum put in there. Then we're going to pull out the big red sponge, and I'm going to squeeze it out until it just barely drips. That's still a little bit too wet, and just a little bit of a drip. About right there, okay? And then we can take it straight to the car. And the biggest thing with the Optimum is we want to make sure that every body panel, after we're done with the body panel, we flip the sponge over. And the way it works, you'll be able to see pretty easily any spots you may miss. And it's just the weight of the sponge. You don't need to put any pressure on it. Just the weight of the sponge. And then when I get to the next door panel, I just flip it over. And I don't have to worry too much about the Optimum drying on the car, because what this is doing is it's taking a polymer, and the polymer is going to attach itself to the dirt and suspend it. Now most of that dirt is going to end up in the sponge, and as soon as I dip it back into the water, the polymers are going to release it, and the dirt is going to fall to the bottom of the bucket. Okay, so after I've done 2 panels, I just want to dip the sponge back in here, roll it over, and wring it back out to where it's dry. So any dirt that's left on that paint is actually suspended in the polymer, so I don't have to worry about it too awful much. I'm going to flip it to do the front of the car. And the sponge, I don't know if you can see it here, but the sponge has got all these little fingers in it, so they're really good at reaching into all the little corners and crevices and such like that. All right, so the car's wet right now, and I got a couple of options that I could choose to do with the car right now. If I chose to, if I wanted to put a wax on the car, while the Opti is still on there and still wet, I could put the spray wax on here, 1 squirt in the middle of the panel, and then I will use the clay towel to put on the clay towel and work the wax in, and then buff off with a microfiber towel. The other option that I've got is I could use the Opti Seal. Don't let the little bottle fool you. This thing will do 10 cars. This one you can actually use as a drying agent to spray this on, and it'll start running the water off of the body panel and put a synthetic sealant on top of the car. This stuff is going to last about 3 months on the car. If you ever have been doing this by a professional, this would be about a $99 retail value wax job. Okay, real easy. I'm skipping the drying step and drying and waxing at the same time. This stuff right here is going to last more like on the terms of like 6 to 9 months. So that's a good value as well. when we're using the wax, we would be using a clay towel. I like the clay towel a little better because if I drop it, you know, as opposed to a clay bar, I can just rinse this off and keep going. This is going to last longer. They estimate this will do about 100 cars, as to where a clay bar will only do about, you know, 10, 20, depending on how you take care of it. The other side is in a clay bar, when it's cold, it doesn't work real easy. When you need the bar, you're actually forcing those contaminants into that clay bar, and I don't like moving around the contaminants on it, so the clay towel is the way to go. But because I'm trying to get this thing clean, I'm not really trying to put any wax or anything on there. Remember, ultimately, I'm trying to get to the point where we put the gloss coat ceramic product on this thing. So I'm going to dry the car from where we're at. When you're drying a car with the ONR, we like a short nap, large towel made out of microfiber. This one's pretty healthy size. I'm going to take this thing and I'm going to fold it over here like this. And each surface of the towel I'm going to use, and it really is just the weight of the towel. Now, if you've gone through there and it's a little warmer out and this is perhaps dried on you a little bit, that's not of any concern, because all of this is going to be polymerized on there. You'll see some spots, but they will come off just as easy as they can be. So we're just going to go ahead and dry the car off and be ready for the next step. All right, so check it out. I've got this part of the towel that's pretty wet. I flipped it over and I did this part, and it's pretty wet too. So just to keep the towel fresh, just keep folding it over. And if you unfold it and use a fresh side on each body panel, it'll keep drying and makes it a lot easier.